Alright. Let me tell y'all another short story. A friend of mine has got a house that was left to him, I believe, when his grandma died. It's been in their family since the 50s. Maybe the 40s, I can't, somewhere around in there. Anyway. Okay, back in the teens or 20s, somewhere around in there, there's a man and a woman that lived in the house. And this would be the same house that belongs to my friend now. And there's not much of a backstory to it, but it is true. Um, but basically, this guy and this woman lived in this little farmhouse on a hill. It's a decent sized house, but I mean, nothing grand, but it's not tiny either. But it's a nice place. And well, so this man and woman lived together there, and husband and wife, as it were. And I don't know exactly what happened, but apparently there was infidelity involved. And so the husband comes home early one day, finds his wife in the bed with somebody other than himself. And so through a fit of rage, he gets a gun. He kills her. I believe he kills the guy that she's with. And then for whatever reason, instead of him shooting himself, he goes out front and hangs himself in an oak tree, the big oak tree in the front yard. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that oak is still there. But anyway, so there's a murder suicide or a double murder suicide, and that normally leaves a pretty good stain on the land or the place, right? Well, they didn't know what to do with the house. They scrubbed up the blood, and I'm sure they replaced some of the floorboards and this and that. They tried to rent the house. Well, every time somebody rents the house, they love the house, they love the size, they love the location, the rooms, whatever. But once they're in there 2 or 3 nights or a night or two, some I don't even think stayed a whole night or whole 2 days. When they would go to bed upstairs, is where the bedrooms were originally, is upstairs. They would hear anything from screams to uh, whoever running down a hallway. And at times they would even see a woman, I believe in white, that looked like she had been shot or stabbed. That she was obviously bleeding, and she would run down the hallway screaming for help, and just disappear. I guess sort of see through her, like you could tell that she wasn't what do you say, corporeal, or she wasn't solid, maybe like us. But so that kept happening, and they would hear screams, they would hear gunshots, they would see the vision of this woman, the footsteps, this and that. So they couldn't really rent the house. They tried and tried. It sat vacant for a long time. Then they decided, okay, we're going to sell the house. So, more or less the same thing. Anybody that took out a mortgage on the house or attempted to buy the house would back out in less than a week, certainly less than a month. They would have the same experiences: woman screaming, gunshots, smell of smoke, smell of burning gunpowder. Different, just very poltergeisty type things, like sort of a violent haunting, but I guess not a poltergeist. I'm assuming it's somewhat residual. But then again, I've got a little short story about me and my fiance when we were there several years back. But anyhow, so they tried to sell the place. They couldn't sell it. So the only thing they knew to do was to take the top level of the house off because that's where they were having the problem is on the top level with all the bedrooms. The lower floor and the basement really have no problem with for the most part. Well, they raised the top of the house to the ground, and now the house has like a flat. What do you call it? I can't think what you call the type of roof, but anyway, there's still a little bit of a second floor. Technically, there's a hatch you can go into, and it's all storage up there. It's full of boxes and junk, and I've been trying to let him get me to go up there because that's where the murder would have occurred, murders. Um, and but he don't he doesn't believe in anything like that. But he didn't want anybody ghost hunting in the house. He don't want anybody going up in the attic. Well, what's now the attic? It used to be the second story. And every once in a while, you'll hear something weird there, or you'll hear a voice, or you'll hear a footstep or two when there's nobody moving. It's kind of weird, but it's you know the bedrooms now are downstairs. There's two or three bedrooms, whatever it is. Um, Three or four bedrooms, whatever it is downstairs. There's like a little library down there and different things. And then there's an actual basement. Um, well, there's another, I guess, just another section of the basement, like where the sump pump is, and there used to be Confederate sabers and muskets and all kinds of stuff down there. But apparently, he hired somebody to do some work, and a lot of that stuff went missing in the process. Imagine that. But anyhow, this is nothing overwhelming. I have run a spirit box there outside and got a couple of interesting results and got some interesting pictures. Just outside, waiting on whatever. But the only experience we've had, other than the voices and the footsteps, and it's nothing major. But my friend was downstairs, and there's a girl that was living with him for a while. She had a couple kids, but anyhow, um, we were leaving one night, and the way the house is laid out, when you walk up the steps, there's two or three steps to the front porch. There's a step up to the house, and then when you go in that room, there's a flight of stairs that's three or four stairs high. Then you hit, a landing, and then the landing on the left side, you've got the kitchen, and on the right side, directly in front of you, there's a laundry room and a bathroom to the left, and there's also a living room to the right. And when you go out the doorway leading out of the living room, there's a staircase that goes down. And that's where the bedrooms are. That's where everybody was this night. And I'm assuming those steps, when you go through the front door, would have originally went all the way to the second story, and the house would have been laid out a little different. But it is how it is now. So me and my fiance are leaving, and we get up to the living room, we're almost to where it splits to the kitchen because we're getting ready to leave out, and we hear a woman's voice say hello, and I just stopped and I turn around and I'm like, Todd. I'm like, that's not Todd's voice. And I'm thinking, maybe it's, I don't remember if it was Amber or Jean, whoever it was that was living there, but either way. So he called their name, nothing. Went back downstairs to make sure nobody had called us. Nobody had said anything. They were all downstairs still, just talking to each other, whatever. But me and her both heard a voice in midair, uh, right behind us. Or it was actually, it was funny because it was like in the air above me. It was like right behind me, but in the air above me slightly. Which I'm not that tall, and we both just kind of looked around and were like, you know, hey. But so that was our cue to leave out. But like I said, it's some weird things that go on over there. I'd like to get in the attic, but somehow I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But I know that wasn't a hell of a lot of paranormal activity. But when you think about it, you think about the original house, and the second floor was literally so haunted that they razed it to the ground, and now it's still technically a 2-story, I guess, but basically a 1-story house with a finished basement and no second story because the hauntings on the second floor are so violent that a man or woman nor child was sleeping in the house longer than 2 or 3 days, and they wanted out. They didn't care how much money they had invested or whether they had somewhere to go. They wanted out, and I'd say that's pretty powerful personally. But anyway, it's just another short story. I'm trying to think of some other things that's happened. There's plenty of things that's happened, but I guess tell them in context. I guess I could always combine a few stories, maybe. Um, anyway, hopefully I'll have the podcast up before too awful long, but it'll be a little bit yet. But I'm gonna still keep putting out a few of these little short stories and see how it goes. And anyway, y'all holler at me. Appreciate y'all listening.